Let me tell you something my uncle once said. The day you carry firewood infested with ants, don't complain when lizards visit you. That's how this whole matter started. You see, my sister, Adora, was the kind of girl that made women bless her and men curse the day they were born into the wrong family. Not just because she was beautiful, no. Ada had sense, the kind of sense that made elders say, this one came with old people's brain. She could grind pepper without letting one seed fall. She tied her wrapper like someone who had lived twice. She could greet 5 elders with 5 different proverbs and never mix one. But on the day she chose a husband, all her sense flew out the window like smoke from a jealous woman's cooking fire. Let me take you back. It was planting season in Umueleke. The sun had teeth, real ones, the type that could fry yam on your forehead if you stood still long enough. The compound was full. Aunties from Abakaliki had come, uncles from Onitsha. My mother was sweating like a goat seller on market day. That day, Adaora was going to pick between 3 suitors, and not just ordinary suitors. Let me introduce them to you. Obina the Gold Tooth came back from Lagos in a borrowed Benz, wore 3 perfumes, smiled like he was selling his teeth, promised to take Ada to Yankee Sharp Sharp. Epheani the farmer, quiet, serious, the only one who brought palm wine without being asked, had 10 ridges already and 2 goats fat like counselors. Chaik, the teacher's son, carried books like they were Bible, promised Ada a future, not just a wedding, spoke too much grammar, but his eyes followed her like the smell of ogiri. The village was buzzing, the kind of buzz that makes even chickens stop scratching to listen. Who will she pick? The women whispered, pounding yam without focus. I heard it's Obina. He gave her mother wrapper from Balogun. No, it's cheeky. I saw him sneak into the compound late at night, but me, I was watching the corner because in that corner stood the 4th man, the one nobody invited, the one without shadow, at least in our family. His name was Epheani, and that was the man Adaora chose. You see, Epheani wasn't from our village. He wasn't from the next one either. He came 3 years earlier to repair the village borehole, and somehow he stayed. Nobody knew much about him, except that he lived quietly near the stream and fixed radios better than anybody. His shirts were always ironed, his slippers never dusty, and he never raised his voice, not even at goats that entered his yam patch. People didn't trust quiet men, and Papa hated him. Any man that walks into a family and doesn't say where he's from is hiding something, Papa said one night, tearing his chewing stick like it owed him money. But Ada said Epheani listens like the earth listens to rain, whatever that meant. The morning of the husband choosing was like war. Auntie Njidika sharpened her mouth. Uncle Tobe counted the kola nuts. Mama prayed like Ada was being led to battle. Then, around midday, Ada came out. She wore white, the type of white that dared dust to try nonsense. Her head tie was so high, birds could perch on it. She held the traditional calabash, the one every girl carries to give her future husband palm wine. The drummers started. People began guessing who she'd walk to. Obina was already adjusting his agbada. Cheek had pulled out a book and was pretending not to watch. Epheani sat calmly, as usual, chewing bitter cola like it was chewing gum. But Ada, she passed all 3 and walked straight to the corner, straight to Epheani. Gasps flew through the compound like wind chasing smoke. Someone's wrapper fell. My cousin nearly swallowed his toothpick. Even the goats paused. Epheani looked up, shocked. Ada knelt, stretched the calabash. Drink, she said. And just like that, the entire compound caught fire. Not literal fire, but the kind of heat that comes when elders feel disrespected. Papa stood up. Tufiakwa, my daughter, to a man whose people we've never met? Mama grabbed her wrapper. Aunt Njideka started crying like someone had died. But Ada,
Ada was calm. "This is the man I choose," she said. And Epheani, he drank. That evening, Papa locked the family gate. Nobody came in, nobody left. He called a family meeting. The kind where even small children sit straight. The kind where fowls know not to cross your legs. "You have embarrassed this family," he said, "and unless this man brings his people before the new moon, you are no longer my daughter." Ada stood up. "Epheani has no people," she said. Silence. Then Papa asked, "What do you mean he has no people?" What Ada said next shook our family to its roots.
They say when a drum beats differently, even the dancers start watching their feet. After Adaora said, "Epheani has no people," the compound went cold. You would have thought Harmattan entered the room. Papa was sitting, but the anger in his eyes was standing tall. "No people?" he repeated slowly, like the words were stones in his mouth. "Then what does he have?" Ada didn't blink. "Me," she said. "He has me." Ah, those words floated in the air like palm oil smoke, heavy and sweet, but dangerous near fire. Uncle Tobe, who had eaten 5 wraps of pounded yam earlier, started choking on his own saliva. Auntie Njideka hissed so hard her teeth whistled. Mama said nothing. Her eyes just began to gather rain. And Epheani, the man in question, he stood like a tree watching a storm it knew was coming. No twitch, no shift. Just a quiet man standing in the heat of a family's war. Papa stood up. "You," he pointed at Epheani. "What is your full name?" Epheani looked at him calmly, too calmly. Then he said, "Epheani Chukwu." Papa laughed, but there was no joy inside it. "My friend, every child from east to west is called that. I said your full name, where are your people from, your father's name, your kindred, your land." Epheani looked down, then back up. "I don't speak of the past, sir. You see now, that's when we knew. This man came with more than love in his bag. In Umweleke, a man's name is not just an identity, it's a door. It tells where you belong, whose hands raised you, what soil grew your feet. A man without a full name, that's a shadow moving among real people." Papa slammed his hand on the wooden table. "You will not marry my daughter." But Ada stepped forward. "Then I will not marry at all. And I swear to you, even the moon stopped rising that evening. That night, the house was quiet in a loud way. You know that kind of silence where you can hear people not talking? Mama didn't eat. Papa didn't pray. And Ada sat outside with her head against the wall like someone watching memories replay. I crept beside her. "Sister," I whispered. "Why him?" She looked at me, soft, sad. "Because Epheani does not promise me things," she said. "He makes space for me." That's when I knew this wasn't puppy love. This was spirit deep. The kind of love that laughs at logic. But love without history? That's like building a house on water. And the cracks were just beginning. The next morning, something strange happened. 2 men arrived in the village. They wore brown clothes and dusty shoes. One held a file. The other looked like he didn't blink much. They came to our house and asked for Epheani. "I saw him enter this compound yesterday," the blinking man said. "Papa told them Epheani had left." A lie, of course. He hadn't moved an inch, but Papa wasn't protecting him. He just wanted answers firsthand. And by evening, the answers came. You remember that red file? It sat on our table like a quiet grenade. Inside were 2 pictures of Epheani. One was fresh, him fixing a transistor radio. The other, him in a school uniform, barely 15, in handcuffs. My breath held itself. "What did he do?" Mama asked. The blinking man sighed. "It's not what he did, it's what he witnessed." Turns out, Epheani had lived under another name, in a town called Ozulu. His family, gone. All of them. Overnight. Fire, they said. Or maybe something worse. Nobody knew. All we knew was he was the only one left. He was 12. And he stopped speaking for 3 years. Ada listened quietly, holding her wrapper like it could hold her world together. They changed my name, Epheani said later. The court, the school, the pastor, everyone said it was for safety. Safety from what? We didn't know. All we knew was this man, this gentle, quiet, respectful man, came from the ashes of something unspeakable, and he had spent his life avoiding shadows, even his own. By nightfall, Papa sat on the veranda, thinking. I knew that thinking. That was elders' thinking, the kind that happens before big decisions are made. Ada came and knelt before him. She didn't cry, she didn't beg. She just placed something in front of him, a folded white cloth. Inside it, Epheani's real name, written in his own handwriting, his father's name, his clan's name, his mother's town. He was finally saying it. But Papa didn't unfold the cloth. He simply looked at her and asked, "Will you carry his silence when it returns?" Ada blinked. "If it returns, I'll sit with it until it talks again." And that, my friend, was how Epheani, a man with no past, became the future Ada chose with both hands. But the story didn't end there, because 1 month later, at their traditional wedding, someone else showed up. A man nobody expected. A man who did recognize Epheani, and what he came to say almost scattered the entire ceremony. Let me tell you, if the wind tells you a tree is rotten, don't lean on it. That wedding day, that bright, sweet day with music and goat pepper soup flying from every tray, that was the day a shadow walked into our family with sandals made of truth. It started like any village wedding. The drummers arrived early, beating skin like they owed it revenge. Women tied 2 wrappers with geel high like mountain tops. Even Papa smiled, the tight, small smile of a man who hasn't fully forgiven but is trying for the sake of the crowd. Epheani was calm. He wore sky blue, simple, neat, no chain, no show-off, just peace. You could tell Adaora had chosen well, the kind of man who didn't shout, but you'd still hear him. The elders took cola. Palm wine was flowing like the gods had finally remembered our village. But just before Adaora stepped out for the wine-carrying rite, a voice came from the gate. "Where is Epheani Uchenna?" "In." We turned. There stood an old man, lean, grey like ash after a long fire, wrinkles like river maps, and in his hand a walking stick carved with a lion's face. Papa stood up. "Who are you?" The man didn't answer. He looked straight at Epheani. And Epheani froze. I'd never seen that man look like that. Not fear, but something deeper, something between recognition and regret. Ada stepped forward. "You know him?" The old man said one word. "Chibuikem?" Silence fell like heavy rain. Ada looked confused. "But Epheani, no, Chibuikem," slowly sat down like someone whose knees had forgotten their job. "You left your name," the man said. "You left your land, but name follows like shadow." That's when we all understood. Epheani, or Chibuikem, hadn't just changed his name. He had run from it. The old man was a clan elder from Ozulu, the town Epheani had never spoken of. And what he said next, it scattered the sweet taste of jollof from every guest's mouth. "Your father," he began, voice shaking like dry leaves, "was a man of land and pride, but in his final days, pride swallowed him. He refused to sell a portion of land the government begged for, said his ancestors lived on it, but he didn't know they had power behind them. They came in the night." He paused. "They didn't come to buy, they came to burn." The compound went quiet. The drummers dropped their sticks. "You were the only one who ran into the bush," the old man continued. "We found you 2 days later, covered in ash, not speaking. And we understood. You lost everyone." Epheani was crying now, quietly, his hands clenched like they were holding the past by the neck. "I couldn't go back," he said. "I didn't know who I was without them." Ada moved closer. "You didn't lose yourself," she said. "You only hid." Papa cleared his throat. "And why are you telling us this now, Elder?" The old man looked at Papa, then Ada. Because he has come of age, and when a man builds a new home, he must bury the bones of the old one. He must forgive the fire and remember his name. Then he turned to Epheani. Your land is still waiting. Nobody claimed it. The same plot your father died for. It is yours. Let me tell you, the wedding almost turned to land transfer ceremony. But Papa, now calmer, stood up and did what surprised even Mama. He walked over to Epheani and opened his palm. Epheani took it. A handshake is just fingers, but that day it was acceptance. By sundown, Ida gave Epheani the calabash. He drank it, not just as Epheani, the quiet man from nowhere, but as Chibuikem, the man who carried fire and survived it. That night, as I helped Mama clear the leftover meat pie and Fanta bottles, she smiled and said something I'll never forget. When a man buries his shame, love plants a tree on the grave. But wait, don't relax yet, because 2 weeks after that wedding, someone else showed up with a letter Ada should never have read. And what it revealed, and it nearly tore the new marriage into pieces. You know what they say. If the soup is too sweet, check who's missing at the table. The wedding was done. The leftover rice finished. The last guest returned to their village gossip. Ada and Chibuikem settled into a quiet life, a sweet life too. You could hear them laughing behind the house some evenings. Not loud laughter, the soft kind, the one couples share when their hearts have found home. But sweet things often hide sour seeds, and Ada found hers on a Tuesday. She was rearranging her wrapper drawer. You know, that drawer women keep at the bottom of the old iron trunk, where they hide wrapper, old love letters, small cash, and occasionally family secrets. She lifted her favorite wrapper, the green one with yellow suns, and underneath it, a letter, not old, still fresh, folded 3 times. Written in Chibuikem's handwriting. Let me pause here and tell you, a woman may forgive a poor man, a foolish man, even a forgetful man. But a man with secrets, that one enters her soul like hot oil enters a healing wound. Ada sat down, opened the letter, read it once, then again, then a third time, because her heart refused to accept what her eyes had already swallowed. The letter was written to someone named Nkem. My dearest Nkem, I hope you are healing. I still think of you every night, and every time I hear music, I remember the promises we made. I am sorry for leaving without goodbye, but I couldn't bring that pain into her new life. I wish you had told me earlier about the child. Please take care of her. I will keep my distance. Forever yours, Chibuikem. My sister didn't cry immediately. Ada just sat there, looking at the letter like it was a live snake, coiled and waiting to bite again. Then she stood, walked out of the room, straight to where Chibuikem was shelling egusi under the mango tree. She didn't scream, didn't shout. She just dropped the letter in his lap and said one sentence. You forgot this under my wrapper. I was there. Oh, I watched Chibuikem's soul jump from his chest and try to find where to hide. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. Then finally, he spoke. But what he said, it made me question whether love, even deep love, can truly survive the full weight of a hidden past. He took a deep breath. I was with someone before I met you, he said, in the town where I stayed after the fire. Her name was Nkem. She was my calm after the storm. Ada blinked. And the child? He swallowed hard. She got pregnant, but she never told me until I was already gone. I only found out when I wrote her after we got engaged. She said she didn't want to burden me, that I should go and be happy. I didn't know what to do. I just folded the pain and kept it. Ada sat down on the step beside him, silent. Not the silence of confusion. This one was the silence of betrayal, the type that doesn't shout because shouting would give the pain too much power. Then she asked the one question every woman asks when her trust starts shaking. If you had told me before we married, would I still have been your choice? And Chibukem, he looked at her, eyes full. I would have still chosen you, but I didn't know if you would have still chosen me. Let me tell you, trust is a house. When one nail is loose, rain starts to enter. Ada moved back to Mama's house that evening. No suitcase, no quarrel, just wrapper, slippers, and silence. In the days that followed, people started whispering again. Ah, they're already fighting. Did he beat her? No, oh, I heard there's another woman involved, and a child. Some even said Ada had overreacted. But Mama, she said something that shut every mouth. A woman has the right to walk out and breathe when the truth chokes her. For 2 weeks, Ada stayed with us, didn't go to the market, didn't answer visitors. She just helped Mama cook, swept the compound, and stared at the guava tree like it was hiding answers. But me? I saw her. Every night before bed, she'd unfold the letter again, read it slowly, then fold it back with shaky hands. Until one morning, she woke up, dressed in blue, tied her wrapper firm, and walked out of the house without saying a word. Where did she go? To Ozulu, yes, to meet Nkem, to see the woman whose name lived in that letter, to see the child, to decide once and for all if she was going back to that marriage or closing the door for good. And what happened there? And even I didn't expect. Let's just say the child wasn't the only secret waiting in Ozulu, and Ada, she had to make the hardest decision of her life. Ada arrived in Ozulu mid-morning. Dust followed her like gossip. The road was long and dry, but her feet didn't flinch. She walked like a woman on a mission, not to fight, not to accuse, just to see, to understand, to ask the questions no wife ever dreams of asking another woman. She found the house easily. Old bungalow, rusted zinc, 2 plastic chairs on the veranda. Nkem was sitting outside peeling garden eggs. Slim woman, quiet face. You could tell she had known pain, but didn't wear it loud. Ada stood still, heart beating like festival drums. Nkem looked up. Their eyes met, and for 1 full minute, not one word passed between them. Until Ada finally said, I'm Adaora Chibuikem's wife. Silence. Nkem looked down at the garden egg in her hand, then slowly stood and said, I know who you are. I've been waiting for you. Ah, that's when Ada knew this woman wasn't her enemy. She was part of the storm Chibuikem never told her about. They sat in silence for a while. Then Nkem called into the house. Adais, come outside. A small girl ran out, maybe 5, skin the color of fresh roasted groundnut. Her eyes sharp, wide, too familiar. Ada froze, because the moment that child looked at her, she saw Chibuikem's face, same eyebrows, same serious mouth, same gentle way of standing, like the world had already told her too much, too early. Ada couldn't speak. The child came forward, shy but curious. Nkem touched her daughter's shoulder. Adeze, this is your father's friend. Ada blinked. Friend, but she didn't correct her. Some truths aren't for small ears. She just smiled weakly. Hello, Adeze. After the child went back inside, Nkem poured zobo into 2 cups. They drank, and then the conversation began, slowly, carefully, like 2 women walking barefoot through broken bottles. Ada asked the question straight. Why didn't you tell him about the child before he left? Nkem smiled sadly. He had already lost so much. His family, his land, his voice. I didn't want to give him more weight to carry. I tried writing. The letter came back. So I raised her. Alone. Ada nodded, still calm, but calm can be dangerous. It's where deep pain hides. Then she asked the harder question. Do you still love him? Nkem didn't lie. She looked Ada in the eye and said, "Yes, but I respect what he chose. He chose you." Silence again. Then Nkem added something Ada wasn't ready for. "But there's something he doesn't know. Something even I didn't know until a year ago." Ada sat up straight. Nkem stood, walked into the house, and returned with a file. Old, worn, tied with twine. She placed it on Ada's lap. "Open it." Ada did. Inside were medical papers, birth certificates, photos, and a court document. It took Ada a moment to understand what she was reading. Then it hit her like thunder across bare back. Chibuikem was not just Adaisy's father, he was also, unknowingly, her legal guardian. How? Because before he disappeared, Nkem had written his full name on a form for child health insurance, back when the government did free registration for orphans and widows. She didn't expect it to mean anything. But somehow his old name, Chibuikem Obika, had been flagged by the welfare office. He had a land asset in Ozulu, one nobody remembered until they started updating records. That land was now in Adaisy's name. Ada dropped the file. "He doesn't know? I was waiting for the right time, for the right moment to tell both of you." Ada stood up, dizzy. What kind of twist was this? She came to meet a woman. She found a daughter. She found a father who never knew he'd already passed something on. She walked out of the compound, tears following her like chickens follow grain, not because of betrayal, but because life had handed her a deeper, harder choice. Could she love a man who came with a whole other life? Could she carry the weight of a child that wasn't hers, but carried her husband's blood? Could she be wife, stepmother, and healer all at once? By the time she returned to Umuleke, evening had settled. Dust on her feet, decision on her chest. She didn't go home. She went straight to Papa. He sat under the orange tree, sharpening his cutlass. Didn't look up, just said, "You've seen her?" Ada nodded. "I've seen the girl too." Papa didn't flinch. And Ada opened her mouth, closed it, then finally said, "She looks like someone I already love." Papa smiled, small, tired. "Then go and carry your marriage. The kind that lasts is not the one with no pain. It's the one with enough love to carry it." But even as Ada stood up to go, a knock came at the gate. Another visitor, another twist. This time, it wasn't Nkem. It was a lawyer. And he wasn't looking for Chibuikem. He was looking for Adaura because a letter had been left behind in her name from someone she never met. And this one was tied to Chibuikem's dead father. The man adjusted his glasses and asked, "Is this the house of Madame Adaora Obika?" We froze. Even Papa looked up. "Who are you?" "Barrister Ebuka, probate lawyer for the late Chief Dyke Obika of Ozulu." "And Chibuikem's father? The same man who died in the fire?" We were confused. How can a dead man send a lawyer? But the lawyer just opened his file, pulled out a document. "Your husband's father wrote a private will. It was not part of his public estate. It only resurfaced recently during a land dispute. And you, Madame Adora, were listed by name." Ada took the paper slowly, hands shaking. The will was short, barely one page, dated 3 months before the fire that killed him. And there, in bold letters, "In the event of my death, my son, Chibuikem Obika, shall inherit the ancestral land known as Udala Rock Ridge. However, if he is not found or is unfit to claim it, I pass it on to his wife, and not just any wife, but the one who carries the river in her heart and speaks truth like flame." Everyone stood still, because those were Adaura's words. Papa sat down, just sat there. "Mba, this is not ordinary." But the lawyer continued, "Udala Rock Ridge is not just land. It holds mineral value, quarry rights, possibly oil. But there's more." He opened another envelope. Inside it, a hand-drawn map. Old, faded, but still clear. It showed a hidden section of land behind the ridge, labeled only one word: Eve. Ada looked at the map, then at the lawyer. What's in that part? The lawyer looked unsure. The chief called it sacred, said it wasn't for development, only for remembrance, said one day the woman meant to carry the family forward would understand what it meant. Ada stood, heart heavy with too many keys. She had come back to rebuild her marriage. Now she was holding a legacy, not just for her, but for a man who didn't even know his father left it behind, and for a little girl who had her father's eyes, but no father in her life. That night, Ada returned to Chibuikem. He was sitting by the old lantern, trying to write again, something he hadn't done in months. She didn't say anything, just walked in, sat beside him, dropped the letter, the map, and finally, a small necklace. Edizi's. She had taken it during her visit to Ozulu. You gave me your name, she whispered. Now I'm giving you your bloodline. Chibuikem read the papers. Tears fell without noise. Then he turned to Ada. You went there? Yes. You saw her? Yes. And? Ada smiled. And I saw a girl who needs her father. She placed her palm over his heart. And a man who needs to stop running from ghosts. The next week, the three of them, Adaora, Chibuikem, and Adaize, traveled to Udala Rock Ridge. Together, no drums, no crowd, just family. They stood at the edge of the sacred land, marked Ife. And as the wind blew across the stones, Ada whispered, Ife means love, but in some dialects, it also means beginning. And that's what they chose that day. Not a clean start, but a true one. With scars, with secrets, but also with hope. As for Nkem, she visited often, not as threat, not as memory, but as mother to a child with two homes. Ada made sure of it, because love, when handled by a real woman, does not fear other women. But this story won't end in silence, because I want to hear from you. Was Ada right to forgive him? Could you raise a child your husband had with someone else? What would you do if your partner hid something this big from you? Leave it in the comments, my people. Let's talk. Let's learn. Because in this life, love alone is not enough. But truth, it gives love a place to live.